Mark Savage is an author and musician from Portsmouth, England. He lives in Portland, where he is a bookseller and co-host of the Mind Meld. Fictional Film Club is his first novel. Take it away, Mark.
Thank you, Mark. I just want to say a couple of things. Thank you to Springfield Public Library for having me. Librarians are heroes, so thank you for everything you do. Thank you to Susan and Literary Arts as well. I feel like being on this list with these cool people who happen to be amazing authors is such an honor. So I'm really glad to be here. I'd also like to quickly mention some friends of mine, the booksellers who were laid off by Powell's Books a year ago, many of whom are currently applying for their old jobs again this weekend. I miss them, miss seeing their faces, and I'm with them, and I want to draw some attention to that. And I'm going to wave to friends and family around the world. In England, some of you maybe a couple of gin and tonics in, some of you are in bed under duvets. Thank you for being here. It means a lot to me. My book, Fictional Film Club, is it's a novel made up of reviews of movies that don't exist. And I'm going to read one of those reviews. It is a French film directed by Chris Marker, who is real. It is called Le jour nous avons perdu un mois. My French is terrible. It translates as The Day We Lost a Month. And it came out, or didn't come out, in 1968. Here goes. Chris Marker emerged internationally in 1962 with La Jetée, which some of you may have seen. A short film composed of still photography and voiceover that tells the tale of a post-nuclear time travel experiment. While The Day We Lost a Month uses live footage rather than stills, like La Jetée, it has a weary narrator who tells a story over a sequence of images. They initially seem unconnected. An old lady feeds ducks. A couple stand under an umbrella. A man eats a hot dog on the bed of his truck. Children listen to a story in a classroom. A female voice explains, the day we lost a month was in February. The governments of the world announced that they had made a discovery. The forthcoming November had vanished. They did not know how or why or what it meant. Their projections going forward to July, August, and September were normal. For October, their numbers oscillated violently. And then, where November should be, there was nothing. Futurologists, meteorologists, astrologists, psychics, and analysts of the twitching codes of the markets all came to the same conclusion. November is gone, and we have 8 months to make a plan. We see more images. Now it is summer, a picnic on a roof in Paris. A woman tap dances in the street while a man plays a violin. Children kick a ball against a mural of Charles de Gaulle. The voice goes on. What can no November mean? Will we go to sleep for 30 days and wake up in December rested and dreamless? Will it just be a bump in the road that we can look back on and smile about? Will every year from now on jump from October to December? Can we just call December November and move on? Or would this mean that 1/12 of our lives were to be stolen? That is at least 6 years to a healthy Westerner. Where would those years go? For most people, even these felt like optimistic scenarios. Others didn't buy any of it. The images continue. A dog on a leash, but with no owner, sniffing around a car wheel. A man removes posters from a bus shelter. A market trader sells fruit. Early government reports clearly designed to avoid panic were regarded as whitewashes. Television programs devoted segments to surviving the lack of November or denying the lack of November. Newspaper editorials blamed our disregard for the environment, or Zionists, or Islamist rebels fighting for a free Algeria or Palestine. Or they said that only the Soviets have the technology to remove a month from our calendar and from our lives. Protest marches against whomever, against whatever, for whichever reason, turned into riots. Deep down, we suspected that the authorities were as clueless as we were. More images. An empty stadium. A factory prints newspapers, headlines obscured. Birdsong at sunset. We hoped that we would wake up on the 1st of November in our beds as normal, with nothing changed. But somehow this scared us too, that so much panicked energy could be devoted to such an anticlimax. By September, there were as many parties as riots. More images appear on screen. A man chops down a tree with an axe. A child watches cartoons and drinks milk from a bowl. Bugs Bunny is dressed as a girl. The speculations were rife. What if November does arrive and seems normal, but then, like a frozen lake with too many skaters, it caves in, leaving 5 billion people scrambling for the solid banks of October or December? In which direction should we swim? Will the current flow backwards or forwards? Will the water be too cold? Do we even have any idea of what time is and where it can go? Rumors said that the very rich would attempt to escape in space shuttles, or buy the services of quantum physicists who could provide them with a perpetual August to live in like an ageless, gated community. This led to vandalism of mansions and homemade bombs sent in elevators up to penthouse suites. The message was clear. If we're going, you're coming too. A line of people wait to vote outside a school. White clothes hang dripping on a line. A cat plays with a dead kingfisher. A group of revolutionaries in France successfully captured a used Mayday. What was their intention? Might they be able to hold on to this chunk of 24 hours like a life raft? One theory was that they hoped to cool it artificially into a likeness of a November day. If successful, they would kidnap other days too, stockpiling as much as a week's worth, to be spread thinly across the expanse of where November used to be, like stepping stones. If it worked, the same could be done next year, and by removing the occasional expired day at carefully selected intervals and refitting them with the correct weather, the correct ambience, the correct poetry, we could eventually build a makeshift November from leftover 29th of February and 18th of July and 26th of October, and knit the two halves of the year together into a navigable route. Each year we might do it with different days so that no one is left with a life of unbirthdays. But the French government, backed by NATO and China and with the quiet consent of the USSR, freed the Mayday and killed the revolutionaries in a daring televised raid. The Mayday was displayed by the French president. He stood behind a podium next to it as it wilted, withered, and died in the September air. Time was slipping away. More images. A car drives in the rainy countryside. A film plays to an empty theater. Judy Garland clutches Toto. The American plan naturally involved a potentially suicidal act of heroism. A small group of elite Marines would be dropped by time plane into the day after October 31st to see what was there. This mission was named the October 32nd Drop and was deemed by many to be doomed. The men prepared in an intensive camp that filled their brains with November residue. They showered in rainwater collected in Maine the previous All Saints' Day, and they ate Thanksgiving dinners every night. The theory seemed to be that if the men could arrive in the abyss with as much November as possible on them and in them, they might be able to survive in the void, even traverse it. But you can't water a desert, a man on television said. They left a week ago, and no reports have come back. Perhaps they have fixed the breach and wait for us on the other side. We might not know until our clocks rotate enough times for us to catch them up. Men in suits sit around a table, the aftermath of a street party. A soldier guards a gate with barbed wire across the top of it. October. Hysteria built. It was like a war had begun and no one had fired a shot yet. A move in the general direction of the West occurred as people all over the world felt that if November had gone, they might hide a little longer in the last strains of October as the sun dropped. Some headed east instead, towards oblivion. Some stockpiled food and drove to the hills. There was no suggestion that they would be any safer there. On television, a respected intellectual of some fame sucked on a cigarette and took questions from a studio audience. One said, maybe this is like the panic over the introduction of the Gregorian calendar. They thought they were losing 13 days of their lives, but they were not. The author smoked his cigarette down to the filter. He said, you can save your childhood photos from the fire. You can't save your childhood from the fire. Yesterday you were a teenager in love on a mountaintop. Tomorrow you are not. There is no villain, no cure, no fight, just death. The last scene of the film takes place in the center of Paris, the 31st of October. A crowd stands below the Arc de Triomphe, waiting. They wear hats and scarves or Halloween costumes. Some are a little drunk. Some sing along with a man who plays popular songs on guitar. He is dressed as a cat. A crying student is reassured by his friends. A man dressed as a soldier, who might actually be a soldier, starts a countdown. The crowd look at their watches. or tentatively embrace. The countdown hits 0. The screen goes black. A deep chord, a low D, is held and somehow grows deeper and deeper without ever changing. The black screen somehow seems to grow even blacker. Thank you.
Hey, thank you so much. That was great.